Through his office windows, Councillor Janna could see the distant flashes of battle, illuminating the night sky with ominous red light. The battle was more than 100 kilometers away, but Janna was worried about it. It was too close for comfort. The fighting had been going on for the last 80 hours, centered around the terraforming platforms, but he worried that it would spread to the colonies, especially ones that voted against the terraforming, as the people of his homeland had, making Planter City a part of the minority position, though he had voted in favour. The council were meeting shortly to discuss the city's stance on the war. As a member of the Venusian Hearth, there are many who want to support the Kraken against the UNS, even though the city is a member. They had been meeting on the subject for days, with no progress, arguing over deployment, trade, allegiance, but it was all posturing. Nobody had enough support for action, and until someone does, it will remain pointless. Janna didn't want any more of this. He needed a plan, something that would unify the council, or at least break the stalemate. Turning to his desk, he summoned forth a hologram of Venus, highlighting the conflict zones, Hearth colonies, UNS colonies, and independents separately. Studying the possibilities, he had a notion, simple, but it could work. The Hastur was drifting in high orbit, the remains Kraken just 3 kilometers below. Not that the corpse suggested the Hastur had won. Power was down over most of the ship, the captain relying on his own neural computer to issue commands. Cozy was reviewing damage reports. Decks 5, 6, and 11 had been breached, causing 62 bodily deaths. Though the digital backup core was working, so they were still at their stations. The bridge still had lighting, but the computers were down. Engineering were working on it, but were estimating 2 days. The ship needed to make port, but the engines were down as well, with an estimate of 20 hours for repairs. So they would have to drift for a while longer. Cozy had finished reviewing the damage reports, turning his attention to the crew. 7 were on the bridge, all working hard to get systems back online. Lieutenant Landau had gotten her station powered up, to a small cheer from the others. "Good work, Landau." The bridge was not quiet, so Cozy had to raise his voice, and for a moment at least, eliciting a smile from Landau. Though the work was far from over, so it faded quickly. Hoya and Taffy were treating minor injuries. Nico was trying to get navigation online again. The hull was the only system taking care of itself. The reports on the breaches indicating that they were nearly closed now. Smart metals folding into place and allowing sealing agents to weld them back together. Not pretty, but effective. Things would get back online here, so long as the Kraken didn't make another attack. If they do, the Hastur would be in no shape to fight. Easy pickings if they get spotted. Cozy began looking along the current path, searching for a friendly port or ship, somewhere they might get help. Councillor Janna stood before the council.
"Fellow council members, Venus is at a crossroads. War has begun. The UNS and Kraken will continue to fight. We need a direction. The longer we wait, the greater the risk we are pulled in against our will."
Pausing to compose himself, he could see the councillors were waiting for him to say something useful.
"We are now less than 100 kilometers from the fighting, but south of us are the cities of Hume and Lilypad, both drifting east, heading for sunrise. If we head toward them, we can bring the Venusian Hearth cities together. It will give us strength, prevent blockades, and allow the Hearth to choose its own destiny."
Pausing again, the council had transformed. The dismissive glances vanished, some rising to their feet in support.
"At full sail, Planter City, Hume City, and Lilypad City could convene in 31 hours. Beyond that, there are another 5 Hearth cities to the east of us. Within 200 hours, we could reach the sunrise and convene with 7 other cities, ensuring our safety from attack and allowing the Hearth to trade freely, free of risks.
Stepping back from the holographic podium and letting it fade away, Janna indicated that he was done. Cheers came from 9 councillors, the remaining 5 silent, though they were not showing disdain. Soon enough, Planter City would be part of a fleet of cities, something that had never happened in the history of Venus's colonization. The Agassi was on approach to the Hastur, engines burning to slow the ship and bring it alongside the destroyer. Angel could see the damage, missing turrets and pylons, along with scars of battle. She wasn't alone. A dozen paramedics were standing at the portside windows, most looking at the Hastur, but some were more interested in the body of the Kraken, drifting alongside. Both were showing the damage of battle, but the Kraken was not healing. Its hard metallic exterior, though pitted and rusty, also had numerous holes, but soft, almost organic materials were drifting out of the wounds, making it very much a corpse, not a wreckage.
The Hastur has replied. I will be docking with her momentarily,
came the voice of the Agassi. He was manoeuvring into position now, the bulk of the Hastur blocking the view of the Kraken's remains. Angel moved away from the window, grabbing her kit bag and heading for the airlocks, soon followed by others. Captain Cozy had arrived at airlock 2. He was not looking at the door, but a large scar on the wall, the reminder that this deck had been breached. Blood stains covering the floor. Ensign Roan had lost his body here. The sound of the door opening drew his attention. A half-dozen paramedics were standing beyond.
Welcome aboard.
He gestured toward the ship's interior.
We have gathered the injured on deck 6, if you follow me.
Cozy turned and led them toward the stairs.
How many?
Inquired Angel.
43 serious injuries, a further 80 or so minor.
They reached deck 6, clearly marked by the wounded. Those with minor injuries were sitting or standing in the mess hall, while the medical bay was overflowing with the serious injuries. Paramedics pushed past, heading straight into the medbay, where they were greeted by Dr. Weller's orders. Cozy turned toward the mess hall. The crew here were suffering minor injuries, but still too serious for them to be at their stations. Chief Petty Officer Lane was sitting by the door. The fingers on her right hand were missing, leaving the delicate fibres of her android body exposed. She wasn't in any visible pain, but lacking fingers was a problem for an engineer.
How's the ship, Captain?
Standing up as Cozy turned toward her.
Paramedics just arrived. Repairs are on schedule, and we should be meeting up with the Laputia in a day or so.
They're fabricating my new fingers now. I'll be back at my post within an hour, Captain.
She smiled with reassurance.
Good to hear, Chief, but I want second shift to get 4 hours rack time soon, and that includes you.
Putting his hand on Lane's shoulder, he gently guided her back to the seat, giving her a smile before heading back toward the bridge. His HUD was indicating that scopes were back online, so they could assess the state of the conflict. Beneath the clouds, Llama, heir of Losi, watched. His senses could see the ships far above. 2 conjoined in the wake of mighty Maska, heir of Nai. Her substance scattered, but her mind remains forever. Llama looked upon the aid ship, small and weak. Its passengers had crossed to the UNS warship. They had declared their side, and Llama would make them pay the price for it. Bringing his tentacles together and charging his coils, he aimed for the aid ship's reactor, taking his time to plot the trajectory. Once he had run a dozen simulations with success. His skin rippled with rage, blasting the clouds with his voice and discharging his railguns in the climax of his words.
Mighty Master, heir of none, lives forever!
Within moments of his words dying away, he could see the explosion. The main reactor of the Agassi detonated, the Hastur's dorsal side taking the brunt of the blast. She was spiraling into a lower orbit. Llama gnashed with delight, making for the depths of the clouds and the safety they ensured.